Alright, everybody, I want to welcome you back to our final power rankings this time. It is for our Gary the Disciple division. Last and certainly not least, but we're going to get to it. We got a lot of teams to cover. I'm Dr. Geo. We're just going to hop right in. Coming up first is Dashing Sceptile of the Seattle Sigilifts. Let's see, what do we got on this team? We have the Chien-Pao, Zapdos, Mega Diancie, Aegislash, Toxapex, Talonflame, Primeape, Druddigon, Sandaconda, Kamala. Oh man, this team is really cool. The Chien-Pao Zapdos core is really strong. I think any of the big, strong physical attackers paired up with Zapdos is, is always really good. And Zapdos is like the premier flying resist. Mega Diancie, Aegislash is a really cool combo. It's a fast and slow breaker, and they both can be run mixed. Toxapex, Talonflame, they're in the mix to just be like utility walls, and then Primeape this is a great draft. Speed tiers are super solid, like Chien-Pao at 135, 126, 110. A nice split all the way down to the bottom. Man, like no real complaints here either. Like no grass type, so I guess in a way you're kind of weak to earthquakes and stuff, especially since your two flying types are hit super effective if they get caught on the roost. But you have some pretty bulky physical defense mounts between Sandaconda and Druddigon. Sandaconda has that nasty bulk upset with rest shed skin, so that's not very fun to play against. Having been on the receiving side, um, nice mix of hazards. Well, I I don't really want to throw Mega Diancie into that boat. You can run hazards on Mega Diancie, but I think a lot of times in draft you're really looking for um, a way to maximize Mega Diancie's breaking power, and usually that means coverage over um, hazards. But if you're running 3 attacks and 1 utility move, maybe it could be spikes, and you have Stealth Rock from somewhere else. So that's probably the weakest point on this team is the hazard availability. Like Primeape can run it. Like Sandaconda is going to be your main rocker combined with Druddigon. Whichever one decides to come that week is probably going to be your rocker. Toxapex would love to run Toxic Spikes if it can fit it. Normally it's running a little bit full slotted between, things like Haze, Scald, Recover, Knockoff. It can be a little short to kind of get it up. But having said that, like the Terra Captain being Primeape is pretty cool. You can certainly, you know, become Annihilate in a way. It's got great attacking stats. It can do the whole bulk up Rage Fist thing too. That's really cool. And this is a really strong team. Um, I struggle to see any glaring weaknesses. Like if you look at the type chart, it's gonna say water weak, but you have a whole Pex, man. Like I don't think you care about water attacks. Yeah, I'm gonna give this team right off the bat a good 9 out of 10. It's hard to find any glaring faults with it. Um, Maybe there's some shenanigans you can pull with the speed tiers if you can guarantee your base 80s kind of run super bulky, and maybe there's something you can do with that. I, I doubt a little bit, but it's kind of where I land on this is a good solid 9 out of 10. Okay, next up we have Orin Latios' team. He is the coach of the Midnight Carkle Riders, one of my favorite logos for the season. And he's rocking the Iron Valiant, Baxcalibur, Tinglu, Victini, Melmetal, Crobat, Porygon 2, Golisopod, Suian Sligo, Mischievous, and Coughing. So right off the bat, a bunch of powerhouses here at the top. Iron Valiant, one of the coolest new Mons, in my opinion. Like, not just in looks, it's kind of got that anime thing going on, but like fighting fairies like a great breaking stat, and this thing's a cool, very good sweeper too with the booster energy. 'Cause it can come in, it doesn't necessarily care about hazards, and then just go to town with your +1 speed. Like, it's got pretty decent attacking stats. Like, not amazing, but it's got sword stance, it's got calm mind. It can boost those up. Um, Baxcalibur is super bulky and does not have a problem like running boots and getting set up every week. So that's another cool mod. It's like almost like guaranteed physical Kyurem in a way. 87 speed tier like lets the +1 outspeed all the 110s, 115s, where I think it's a lot harder to do with the um, Tyranitar. Tinglu is just going to be your utility bot. It's got both hazards of spikes and stealth rock. Ruination's a great move. Whirlwind, earthquake. I really like some of the sets going around of like choice banding it because it has a great attacking stat at like 115 or something, 110. I can see it down there. But you don't even really need it because like if you have you don't lack for power on the physical end, like between Golisopod, Melmetal, Baxcalibur, um, Victini's like just could probably gonna run special more often than not for this team, but that's fine. Like Psychic, Blue, Fire, Glaciate, U-turn, done. Easy Mon, easy Mon. Um, I think like you're a little hazard weak on this team. Crobat being your only removal, and like that's tough because you're gonna be coming into a lot of knockoffs. Tinglu probably doesn't care about a knockoff, depending on who it's coming from. Like if it's a big, strong fighting mon, maybe it cares, but in general, it can take knockoffs all day. Um, your hazards are okay. You've got two great spikers, Tinglu. Golisopod's really great at spiking. And then like Tinglu's probably coming every week anyway, so the fact that it's your only stealth rocker's not really a problem. Um, I think the Trick Room Melmetal is really solid, and like that's gonna be really really tough for a lot of teams to deal with, because Melmetal, in Trick Room like really gets to start to abuse the double Iron Bash procs. Um, I want to see what this Terra Golisopod can do, because I think the idea of it to me would be like it has some decent coverage moves. I know Drill Run for sure, but like just Terra Bug first impression, like with a choice band. It seems like a pretty cool way to clean up a game. Um, Hisuian Sligo does, I guess, the same thing Hudra does, just not as good. Um, I think this team's a little weak around the edges of getting Mons in, so you're going to be a lot dependent upon switching in. And at that point, it doesn't have to be prediction reliant because you do have a pretty bulky team. Just looking at like Tinglu, Melmetal, Baxcalibur, Porygon, and Crobat's fairly tanky when it doesn't have to run any speed investment. So you have the tank, but like you can get worn down pretty quick. Like even with just one layer of spikes, like that starts to add up. And like if you get caught into like a um, bolt turn struggle, you could be in a bit of trouble here. Not guaranteed. So this is a cool team. I don't like it as much as the last, so I'm gonna just dock a point off and say this is a solid 8. Alright, next up we have Liger of the Oikado Chestnuts. And let's see what we got here. We have the Roaring Moon, Slowking Galar, Ursaluna, Moltres, Arctizzle, Quagsire, Klefki, Oricorio, Pinsir, Keltio, and Aeron. So, the big combo I see right away is Slowking and Arctizzle. You just chilly reception into Arctizzle, and then you get to go woohoo real fast. But you also get to bluff the. I think you can do Trick Room, teleport, or sorry, chilly reception into Ursaluna as well. I think Glowking gets Trick Room, so you are definitely threatening that every week. Whether you bring that over Arctisol, I don't know. I don't think you can afford to run them both like that. So you're probably picking between one or the other. But then you still have like Ursa Moon or Roaring Moon to clean up as well. You have Hazardbot and Quagsire now. Um, I don't know whether to count Aaron as a real rocker. Pinsir again can rocks, but is it? Not really. Oh, you have the Keldeo too. Keldeo's a really slick mon. It's, you know, Specs, Scarf, or sub Calm Mind every week. It's gonna just hit like a truck. Klefki, some great utility. Yeah, this team is really cool. Plenty of defog answers. Maybe it's a little weak in terms of pivoting, because like there's just the Moltres, Roaring Moon, Slowking. So it's really reliant on the Slowking to get Arctisol and Ursaluna in safely, because you know they don't necessarily want to switch in. Arctisol really struggles with it. Well, it's not frail. You wouldn't call it tanky either. While Ursaluna is very tanky, if you're running the Guts Life Orb, or sorry, Guts Burn Orb, then you know switching into attacks can really kind of slow down any forward progress you'd be making on this. So, you know, that's really the toughest part is going to be getting these mons in, and without any wish, what you see is what you get, barring any leftovers recovery. So I think that's where this team's gonna struggle. Like it's all in on the Arctisol and Roaring Moon to win games, Ursaluna to break, and you're gonna just surround it with like the Slowking, Moltres, Quagsire, maybe Klefki, or Keldeo. Like the Keldeos may almost even struggle to fit onto the team if you're running Zolt Ursaluna. Because then you'll have those with the Slowking, and the Roaring Moon's going to definitely come. So then what's your last two? Moltres, Keldeo, Quagsire. They're it's going to be competing for a slot, and that's tough to see with the Keldeo, because it's like such an important special breaker for this team. Because like I don't see very much special attack going on other than maybe the Moltres, which is fine, but like the Moltres Keldeo needs to be a tandem some weeks, and so I think while I like it, it's a little all in on the Arctisol, and maybe that's enough to win, but probably it doesn't seem as well rounded as the last team, so we're gonna give this a 7 out of 7.5. It has the tools to win, but it just ain't quite there yet. Like I see a little lack of synergy in these bottom mons, and like with Keldeo like struggling for slot 2. Okay, next up we have K-King of the New Jersey Origin. He's got a cool Giratina logo. We have the Iron Bundle, Landorus Therian, Komodo, Sylveon, Machald, Bronza, Amoonguss, Zoroark, Audino, and Armarouge. Ustera. Taking a look at this, pretty decent speed tiers. You know, you hit everything. Like your 115 plus, 110, 100, 90, 80, 70, 60, 50. Like that's pretty good. You know, bias speaking here, I like the Iron Bundle Landorus Therian combo. Anything to help get Iron Bundle in is a good thing. So you have plenty of U-turn mons washed out. Excuse me. Landorus Therian to get him in. Sylveon can do the slow baton pass, so like great ways to get them in. I think what this team's missing is a reliable source of spikes, T-spikes, sticky webs, anything. Like it has okay rockers, like Bronzong can come every week, have a good matchup, and it will set rocks. So like that's totally passable, totally doable. You just are a little bit limited when it's forced into that, and I think kind of going around that too is you have two normal types. I guess every week you're going to decide, am I going offensive with my normal or am I going defensive? I want to see how the Machado works out. it seems a little telegraphed in draft that like your normal resist is just gonna carry a helmet so it can switch in, and you watch the mice throw their family into oblivion. So that could definitely happen. The Zoroark definitely has some play. I'm, you know, these aren't the biggest hitters in the world that force a type of reaction, so maybe like it's a little bit harder to use. I'm not sure. I'm not too good at using it, and you know, you've got the Komodo, which is always threatening to just like clanging souls and just go, "Hey, I won the game." So I guess that's pretty neat. Um, the Armarouge being your Terra captain is kind of cool to me. I I haven't seen too much of it without the combo of Psychic Terrain. Um, let's check here. Do any of these mons? Oops, if I can type. Get Psychic Terrain? No. Oh, okay. So Bronzong can set Psychic. I mean, okay, so that's what you do. That's what you do. Set Psychic Terrain with Bronzong, you explode, you get Armarouge, Terra Psychic while expanding Force, and you just break anything that's not a Dark type. You break Steels too. You've got the Fire. So yeah, okay, I'm back on board. That's pretty cool. Um, I think my other big complaint, other than like absolutely no hazards and pretty poor removal and just the land OT, would be lack of strong physical attacks. Like you have Landorus and kind of Komodo, and that's it. Nothing else really runs physical. So like you can leave your physical walls at home as long as like you have a Lando switch in. So that's tough. I think due to that reason and the fact that like it's all in on Iron Bundle to do damage and like Komodo to clean up or Lando to clean up. I'm probably gonna have to rank this a 7.25. I want it to work out. I really do. I just don't. I just don't see it. It's like it's got cool pieces, but looking at it together, it's hard to see weeks where the Audino really comes that you didn't, or Mashal doesn't come, and like Sylveon, Bronzong, and Mungus are all kind of a bit passive too. I don't know. It's just tough. I think you want some more heavy hitters up at the top to actually be able to break teams, because if you can't break them, then like Iron Bundle isn't going to be able to clean up. All right. So coming up next, this is Coltrane's. Coltrane's, I want to say it's the Idaho Ironheads. Checking right now. Yeah, Idaho Ironheads. I got that one right. They are coaching a Dragapult, a Scizor, Tapu Fini, Mega Aggron, Screamtail, Cinderace, Rotom-Mow, Iron Jugular, and Hitmontop. So double Steel type with a Scizor, Mega Aggron. It's kind of cool. The Dragapult, Tapu Fini. I think that's a neat combo. As long as Fini can like do what it needs to do while Misty Terrain is up before Dragapult comes in, because if you're running like Banded, you don't want to weaken your own Dragon attacks like that. Um, so that's probably a little bit of anti-synergy, but like the Screamtail with this team is also kind of cool. I think the Mon's being slept on a little bit. It's pretty tanky. It has some cool calm mindsets, some cool um, encore sets. It sets rocks. Does other things, I'm sure. Yeah, it's got a like Wish, Baton Pass. It's neat enough. Um, I think the Iron Jugular Terra is like the thing to watch out for this team, because that's gonna be the breaker. Like just throw specs on it, Hurricane, whatever, and super cool and strong. I think this team looks a little weak to things like mixed fire attackers, and I don't mean that like mixed physical special, but if your fire type has a way to really pressure the Fiend, that looks really strong against this team. Dragapult never really wants to switch into moves, and like so you're asking Fini to cover a lot of that. no hazards really of which to speak of. Pretty good removal, lots of defoggers, good rapid spinner. So it's like good pivot, has decent moves, but like no hazards other than rocks. So like you get rocks, like you're gonna get at least one up. Like normally it's gonna want to be rocks, but uh yeah, I'm not convinced on this team either. I like it the less. I think it's just like too top heavy with the steals, and I think like even just fighting spam. Nah, fighting spam isn't that bad, but like yeah, fire or spam can be a little much, and like I'm not convinced you have like the wherewithal in this team to go on the offensive super early. Maybe the Iron Jugular can do it with Cinderace and Pult, but I'm just struggling to see it. Like if if I mean if you get into like a Dragon Fairy counterattack, like you have two Crate-Mons to stop it. But we're gonna give this team a 7 out of 10. I just don't see the synergies there. Next up, we have Egotistical Elekid coaching the Memphis Primeapes. And we have the Mew, Clefable, Landorus, Heatran, Vikavolt, Blastoise, Superior, Hydreigon, and Dunsparce. Whew, okay, I see. This is why other teams are struggling to have a Stealth Rocker, because this team just has all of them. The first 4 Mons all set Stealth Rocks, and the last 2 Mons also sell Stealth Rock. Very cool. How precipitous. Um, so you have rocks. Mew does everything except sticky webs, but Vukavolt's great. Weber. Speed tiers look alright. A little slow on the top end. Like Superior being your fastest mon is serviceable, but sometimes you will really want 115 plus. That seems to be like my internal benchmark these days of what I'm looking for. And then I guess we kind of fall off, go from like 98 to 78, and it drops off a bit from there. I think this is like a really strong team, just looking at the first 5 mons, and then you like swap in any of the last ones, or you swap out the Vikavolt for like Dunsparce, depending on like are you facing Spectre or something that week. My biggest worry for this team is actually finding the time to build the Mew and Clefable sets week to week to week, because like there's some very specific things you can do with their spreads. Landorus, it's deciding, physical special, whatever. Like in Heatran, I mean, there's only Scarf Eruption. It's like the only set that actually exists. Everything else is just a waste of time. Terra Blastoise, I'm excited to see with Shell Smash and just like going absolute ham with the Terra Water or Terra Dark or something. Hydreigon does Hydreigon things. This team has some very powerful mons and has some pretty good longevity. Like the Mew and Clefable aren't going to die. Heatran can also live. I think what I'm failing to see is, other than the Landorus, a lot of initial breaking power. Like Blastoise needs a power up, Superior needs a power up. Hydreigon can break on the special side, but like, so what do you do? How do you break this super Spadef mons that only want to attack you like physically? I don't see it. Like, I mean, it's like Swords Dance and D-Dance and stuff, so like you can get there, but like if it's dependent on setup, do you really have the tempo to use on that? I don't know. So we're gonna put this with Coltrane's. We're also gonna give this team a 7. I think it has the longevity, but like I don't know how it actually wins games, like to break to allow something to sweep. I struggle to see it. Okay, coming up next is the Helix Fossil. They are the coach of the St. Louis Shroomish. And what do we got here? We have, this was a random draft where they did 2 random numbers. First, like what point tier it was, and then what mon in that tier to draft. And I think it stayed that way through the Finian. Helix, you're gonna have to let me know in the comments or something uh, when exactly you stopped it or if it went all the way through. But so you have the Kyurem, Pharaoh Seed, Tafu Lele, Taco Wing, Gene, Wochain, I don't know, Finian, Mega Aerodactyl, Iron Shreds, Raikou, Vaporeon, and Grafaffle, not a waffle. Um, so let's just look at like the team that like eventually came out from this. I like the Lele Chiron. Like they seem to cover each other super well. Um, I mean, yeah, they're both weak to steel. I guess you have Vaporeon and Ferroseed to cover it, but Ferroseed's probably never coming. Um, so what do you do then? Oh, Iron Shreds. Iron Shreds can definitely take a good steel hit. Like even if it's special, like it doesn't mind one. Um, so you're not too worried about that. But like the Kyurem Lele are gonna break in heads every week. I want to see Slitherwing, how it operates. It just seems like a slightly worse Buzzwole to me, but that's just me. Um, Chain's gonna game live reactions. Um, so Iron Shreds is gonna be your main rocker. I've drafted Pharaoh Seed before. I don't think we're gonna see it all that much. He has much better mons everywhere else, so you're gonna primarily see them. I want to see what the Vaporeon can put in some massive work, especially with the Terra type. Like just to be able, like it's so tanky, and to be able to switch into a preferred defensive typing. Like water's great, don't get me wrong, but like if you need fairy that week, um, you could do that too. I think there's a lot of potential with the prankster Grafaffle. Uh, I'm really kind of digging this team, even though it was just average or sorry, randomized. Like there's a lot of cool pieces. Maybe it's because like you just had some points left over after like the Pharaoh Seed and Finian to kind of bring it together. So like I'm gonna probably give this team an a 7.5. Like I think yeah, I think there's plenty here to work with. It's weak on the hazards, it's weak on the removal, but it's got good pivot, decent speed tiers, kinda. But yeah, so I feel good with a 7.5. Next up we have Spike. He's the coach of the Lake Michigan Leafeons. And we have a Tapu Koko, Goldango, Iron Moth, Dragonite, Gastrodon, Crocodile, Quaquaval, Serena, and Licky Licky. This is a pretty spiked team looking at the Gastrodon and Licky Licky. Um, but you have the Koko, and so what do you Iron Mons do you have to pair it with? Iron Moth. That seems pretty good. Um, this team seems all around setting up for Dragonite or Quaquaval to end the game, and I guess it can do that pretty well. Um, it seems to me very weak to earthquakes, so you got to be a little careful with that. Serena can tank them, especially with synthesis sets, but sometimes that can be a little slow. Um, but like it's all up to Gastrodon. Gastrodon has both hazards now, so that with the stealth rocks from Crocodile and some T-spikes from Iron Moth is like, so you're not doing great with the hazards, but you will get probably at least one hazard per game from the Gastrodon. Dragonite's always willing to set up and win you the games, um, so that's a definite out for you. And then Koko also wins games, so I like the team. I like the synergy. I see some really cool things. The 110 to 92 drop from Moth to Crocodile is a bit concerning. Um, and the fact that your only real removal is like Koko Serena. So like those aren't really all that great either. I kind of feel the same way as I did with the Helic fossils. Like there's a lot of really cool pieces. I think your path towards a win con of either just getting Dragonite or Quaffle set up is pretty simple. Um, but there's just some lingering issues. So I'm gonna give it a 7.5. All right, next up we have Ash's team, and Ash is the coach of Yippee. That's all that's there. Um, it's I think the team is actually like team didn't draft itself, and it's a legit picture of the current roster. It's this some meta joke, so that's all fine. So we have Apalafin, Spectre, Mega Gallade, Cyclizar, Togekiss, Nidoqueen, Moltres Registeel, and Quilladon. This is pretty stacked on the top end. Palafin, Mega Gallade, Cyclizar, Spectre. I think all three of those mons absolutely love Shedtail. And these are the fastest mons in this draft too. So, oh, and the Moltres also really love Shedtail to like get that free first setup turn. Because like if you can guarantee 2 turns for Moltres Galar, the game's usually over. So you get in, with the Shedtail. You set up turn 1 as they break the sub. You set up turn 2. You take 60% because you're Moltres, you're super tanky. You get that Berserk boost and you're ready to go. So like, I mean, that seems really cool. This is a team where like you also have like setup Reggie to worry about, but like, sorry guys, it's starting to get a little late. But like between the Nidoking, there's Nidoqueen and Registeel, you always have reliable rocks. I'm not too worried about this team lacking spikes. Like this team's gonna be playing pretty fast to be able to get things like the Mega Gallade in. That this is like the rare exception where spikes may actually slow the team down. As long as you get something down to break Sashes, you have the power to clean up between Palafin and Spectre once like Moltres or Mega Gallade opens the game up. So I don't really have a problem with this team. I I think this is my own bias coming in with like just Cyclizar gets in a super strong mon and then you just go to town, and I think I really like this team. I'm gonna put it up as an 8. That's where I feel really good with it. Okay, next up we have the Rage 77, coach of the Buffalo Toros. And what do we have here? We have Chi-Yu, Mega Medicham, Zeraora, Nidoking, Rillaboom, Empoleon, Dachsbun, Noivern, and Hisuian Zoroark. Okay, Chi-Yu, Mega Medicham, really, really cool together. There, everything gets broken. Yeah, either your special walls break or your physical walls break. I think that combined with like Zeraora and Rillaboom, like those are 2 great cleaners between Super Speed and Grassy Glide. Everything else is just a bonus. Like this team has breakers for days between the Nidoking too. Ooh, like I think this team just wants to play hard offense. I love Empoleon, Dachsbun, like something to cover your fire weakness, like with the Empoleon too. So that's really neat. Empoleon's like a lot of ice weaknesses here, but like Empoleon like covers that. Empoleon does not have Roost anymore. That was just a PLA thing, I think. Roost. It's not one of the moves, that's fine. Oops. But so that can limit you a little bit. But Noivern, I think you can run it tanky. Like get rid of the flying weakness. If you want that to be an extra steel type, it can really add some longevity. The Zoroark, Hisui. We've seen Zeke get a ton of kills with it a couple seasons ago, so like it can put in the work. It has the pretty decent move pool and high special attack. I'm vibing on this team because I think all it needs to do is land a few attacks with the Chi-Yu Mega Medicham, and then like Zeraora and Rillaboom just absolutely clean up. And the whole point is to be able to get in Chi-Yu and Mega Medicham. It has decent enough between the Rillaboom and Noivern, who can be tanky, switch in, get them out. Or Dashboon even has the Baton Pass that you just wish was a little bit slower. So there's no slow pivots. That's maybe my other complaint, but I think just in terms of the power that these mons hit with is pure. So I'm gonna put this team at an 8.25. I'm really digging on it, even though it's lacking specifically like in hazards, and removal's fine. But okay, next we have Zeke, coaches Ohio, the entire state, not just this team. And what do we have for teams here? We have Great Tusk, Corviknight, Rotom Wash, Mega Charizard Y, Kartana, Espathra, Glimmora, Grimmsnarl, Scovillain, Toadscool. It's just it's the baby one. Okay, so this is a weather team. Just looking at the Scovillain, the Mega Charizard Y. The problem is Mega Charizard Y does not want to share his sun. So that's probably the biggest, most concerning thing. You have like a Volturn core and Rotom Wash Corviknight to kind of pivot back and forth between these tanky mons to either get like the Kartana in or the Espathra. I think your best bet for a team like this is just Hazard Stack with Glimmora, get Kartana or Megazard Y in, and just start breaking things until whatever is the Espathra check that week, whether it's like a Tinglu or something, you get rid of that with the Kartana Mega Charizard Y. Grimmsnarl can then like set up some screens for you. I think that's going to be your path to victory most weeks, and then everything else is just there to enable that. So you have a Hazard Bot and Glimmora. Great Tusk loves to set rocks. I don't think Toadscool's ever coming. It's a weird mon. I don't like the look of it. It's like a walking tentacle. Nope, that ain't it. Scovillain's gonna really struggle to come unless you force it. I don't really like that. And it doesn't really switch in. It's so frail. So I think it's a bit of a waste of a Terra slot. I think this is actually like a really hard team to pilot unless you like just ignore your last two mons and focus on the top ones. Like removal's pretty good. Like you have Rotom Corv, they can always get rid of stuff. Rapid Spin, Great Tusk will get rid of it. I'm not sold. I think I'm actually like a little low on this team because my own experiences with Espathra and draft just isn't very good. It wants the Terra type really bad, or because it really struggles to get through like Darks without fighting Terra Blast or the Fairy Dazzling Gleam. So I just looking at some of these other numbers I've given, and Zeke, this is probably my least favorite team. I think you're gonna struggle with it. It's just a hard team to pilot. So I'm gonna give it a 6.75. All right. Cool. Next up we have Pro Shuriken of the Midwestern Moltres, and we have Mega Scizor, or Shifu Rapid, Latios, Rotom-Heat, Zarude, Clodsire, Deontay, Swellow, Sandy Shocks, and Glaceon. And excuse me, starting to get a little parched there, but we'll get something to drink after we finish this. Terra Swellow. Let's see. Yeah, this is a decent team. Terra Swellows to go, or normal for the big boom bursts. Ooh. So, yeah, that's fine. Looking at the top three, this is pretty cool. This is like, you're just missing a Koko to be a Huiku draft special. I like it. I think we may have underrated Urshifu Rapid a little bit here, because I think with the new punching glove, it just feels really strong. It has Sword Stance now too, and a much better priority move than Sucker Punch, or more reliable. I wouldn't say much better. Um, funnily enough, other than the Deontay, everything has either resistance or weakness to ice on this team. It's just what it is. It's kind of funny. But plenty of pivot, a lot of U-turners, 2 good ult turns, and I like it. This team just feels like well built all around, super solid. It's normal Deontay, so you're happy to run hazards on it. Sandy Shocks is a great spiker. Clodsire can run any. So you have this nice mix here. What you want to do, you've got good removal, and you've got ways to get Latios in. Latios wants to get in safely to drop the meteors. This is a really cool team. I'm gonna give this an 8.5. I'm super high on this team. It just covers everything that I would want to be covered in a draft, and it has super easy win cons and like decent scarfers too, like to close out games. I really like it. I think Pro's gonna do very well with it. Alright, next up we have a returning champion from Initiate, Froggy, coach of the Top Heavy Toads. Froggy's team here is Tornadus Therian, Sneasler, Politoed, Kabutops, Excadrill, Tangrowth, Hatterene, Terra, Incineroar, Kingdra, and Manectric. Okay, so this is a rain team. This is meant to be a rain team. So what do we have for rain abusers? Kabutops, Torn, and Kingdra. So all of them do great in the rain. I want to see some Kritra with the sniper, but it probably won't come. And the thing with Froggy is you need to be a little careful. A lot of times you're used to seeing just like super defensive Politoed, so it can get more and more rain up with Drizzle, but this man runs like Weather Ball a lot. It's super offensive. I think we saw in playoffs Specs Politoed last season, and like with Specs, it's nothing to sneeze at. Like it's 90 special attack. That's gonna hurt if you're not expecting it. I think we've determined Sneasler is pretty cracked with Dire Claw, Poison Touch. It's like a 50% chance to do a status. I think that's yeah, it's just gonna be super tough to deal with. It's got a nice mix of special breaking power, the Torn with the Politoed. The Excadrill's a little tough to see what it's doing here on the team. Manectric's too, but like once it's in, you can just scarf it, Mold Breaker every week. I think Excadrill just fine. Like for defense, you've got the Tangrowth and Incineroar, and I think that's pretty good. Incineroar is great coming in, taking a hit, pivoting out. Hat's a funny setup mon. I want to see what they're able to do with it. This is Disciple, so because it's a rain team, I feel a little low about it, but like it's one of the better weather teams I've seen. It's got great ways to tank the weather. I think it's plenty fine taking flying type moves as well. Yeah, because Kabutops is rock, so it resisted as well. I'm gonna give this 8.25 as well. It's just super solidly built. Great way to pressure and close out games. Last, certainly not least, we have Iris of the Tinkamole, another great new logo we have. And this is a Celesteela, Garchomp, Annihilate, Meowscarada, Miltank, Terra Galvantula, Silvally, Starmie, Tinkaton. I think this is with a couple transactions thrown in, but it's the team in the roster that's loaded up. So this, covers all the speed tiers. Great hazard settings here. You have plenty of rockers, some good spikers. I think Chomp's going to be really good. Gen 9 with loaded dice. I'm really excited to see it used, and I'm really excited to see Annihilate too. I think even though we had it at 15, Annihilate may be a point or two too low. Like that taunt bulk up set just feels pretty oppressive if you don't have a mon that can immediately put pressure on it to get it out. So like your normal walls are just not gonna work with against Annihilate. Um, so I want to see how that goes. If anything that's a little weak is this team's hazard removal. Silvally and Starmie are kind of it, but Tinkaton's a real interesting Pokemon. Um, like with the Gigaton Hammer, it starts to like have a real move even without investment. Um, it's got a good utility move pool with like knockoff Thunder Wave and such. So it's pretty interesting. I think I'm looking around to see if there's any like great special attackers. Like Starmie is probably your best bet, but yeah. Oh, I guess Celesteela is a little bit higher. Um, I think on the special side of things, it's where this team's probably weakest. Galvantula with, I think Terra Thunders are where it's at. I think this is a really solid team all around that doesn't have any glaring weaknesses, but it is going to struggle to break on the special side. Having said that, it may not need to. Celesteela can still do the power herb meteor beam to like get that immediate +1 and start putting in damage, so not too worried about it. I think for this squad, probably a little bit lower. We're gonna give it the 8. Notice some of these scores are trending a little higher as we go. So that's kind of it. Before we talk about all the scores, I just want to remind everyone, I don't think there's a single team here that's bad. I think all of the teams have the ability to win games, and ultimately what it comes down to is the coach creativity and making the right plays at the right time. You can have the best team. Oh, like another thing I'm noticing about this team right now, Iris's team is like the speed tiers just kind of drop off a cliff after 90. So that's not great, but I already said the number, so I'm not going back. Yeah, so having said that, like it's still anyone's ball game for the season. So let's take a look at the full sheet here, and we will just kind of crop this down. Oh, yeah, the sound effects are necessary. Okay, so this is kind of where we're at here, but I don't like ties, so I'm just gonna arbitrarily, based off what I see. I kind of liked Rage's team just a little bit better, and because I don't like weather all that much in draft, we're gonna put Rage right above Froggy. We have 3 8 teams. I liked Orange the best, so it gets the 8.2, and Iris I think I would like the least. So Ash, you get the 8.1. But we have 2 7.5 teams. It's between Spike and Helix, and I think I like Spike's a little less because it has the 2 tanky mons. I don't like Licky Licky, so let's give it to Helix. And the last tie that we need to break is between Coltrane's and Elekid's, and I'm gonna just flip a coin because I don't know. Alright. Yeah, we're gonna give it to Coltrane, so that'll be 7.1 for them. And so there you have it. That's your power rankings that have absolutely no meaning, especially coming out towards the middle of week 2. But there you have it. Thank you so much for spending time with me. It's been great to talk about these and just kind of share some thoughts on these teams as I see them. So thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Peace.